Well, hello and welcome to another episode of the Terri Cole Show. I want to start this episode with a question. Do either of your parents emotionally blackmail you? Do they guilt trip you? Do they act competitively with you, like you're actually kind of afraid to tell them when something good happens because somehow they're going to rain on your parade or feel threatened by it? Do they take credit or attempt to take credit for your accomplishments, for your talent? Okay, so if you're nodding your head, then this episode is for you. In today's video, I'm going to give you the signs and symptoms that you might have a narcissistic parent or two. I'm also going to provide some blueprint questions that you can ask yourself to get a better understanding of how this might be impacting your life right now and some steps that you can take to get on a healing path. So let me just start by saying, if you are new to my channel, welcome. I'm incredibly happy that you are here with us. Please leave comments, introduce yourself below because I read everything. Make sure you subscribe. Just hit that little button right now, the bell, so you don't miss a thing. And if you don't know me, because you're new, my name is Terri Cole. I'm a licensed psychotherapist, a relationship expert, and the author of Boundary Boss. It's right there. And you can get that book at boundarybossbook.com right now, and you can still get all of the bonuses. So if you need help with boundaries, there you go. So I also want to I always highlight different comments before I get into my video. And this comment came from, who is it? 40 and Fabulous, right on. And this was on a video that I did called Manage Boundary Setting Anxiety Now. And 40 and Fabulous said, "Thanks for the video, Terri. I grew up thinking I could never say no to my family, friends, or employers because whatever I did, it resulted in an argument, and I always caved because the other person always came back with a verbal attack. Because of that, as an adult who is also a highly sensitive person and obviously codependent, I've struggled with setting the limits in my relationships. With time and maturity, I've realized that I harbor resentment when I don't set boundaries. I'm working on it. It's definitely a valuable skill that gets better with practice." I am cheering you on, 40 and Fabulous. Thank you so much for being here with me and for taking the time to make a comment. If you're new or if you're here and you haven't subscribed, please do. Hit the bell. I don't want you to miss a thing. I don't want you to miss any episodes. Now let's get into today's content. Let's start with those questions. Were you nodding your head when I asked you if your parents guilted you, blackmailed you, took credit for your accomplishments, felt threatened by you? Because if you have narcissistic parents, either one of them, and this could be, we'll also call them parental impactors, okay? You guys, because you know I talk this way because they don't have to be quote-unquote parents. What if you're raised by a grandma or an aunt or older siblings or a foster mom and dad? Like, it doesn't, when I say, anyway, I'm going to say parental impactor, so we're all on the same page, that I'm not saying this needs to be your biological quote-unquote parents, because it's whoever, the adults in your life, whoever raised you, is who had the impact on you and who's probably still impacting you today. So I'm going to ask you a couple of questions. I want you to think about, really think, do either of your parents, did they, growing up, emotionally blackmail or guilt trip you so that you would do what they wanted you to do? Were they punishing in their behavior towards you if you didn't do what they wanted you to do? So this could include withdrawing love, it could include giving you the cold shoulder, or straightforward punishments like taking things away, or it could also boil over into someone being physically, emotionally, and verbally abusive. Did they take credit for your accomplishments? Like every time something good happens, you get that for me. You know, I'm like that. So that's why you have that skill, whatever it is. Or do they compete with you? I've heard so many stories from clients, therapy clients, who with narcissistic parental units, one or the other, where the parents really competed, whether it was even in sports, like never ever letting a kid win, like wanting to crush an 8-year-old at tennis or whatever, like so that my client would actually be crying. There's something off about that, right? If you are not a narcissist or if you are not insanely competitive, you know it's okay to let a kid win once in a while. Give them some confidence. I don't mean coddle. I mean, of course you can beat an 8-year-old in tennis if you're a grown man, right? That's not a feat. You're supposed to be teaching a kid something. So it can be incredibly painful and humiliating having narcissistic parents. Did they exaggerate their own accomplishments? Right. So now let's get into some of the characteristics of someone who is a narcissist themselves. There's a tendency to exaggerate their accomplishments, sometimes straight up lie about what they have done and haven't done in their life. Definitely exaggeration for sure. But sometimes they'll also straight up lie to get you to do what they want. Like with people who are narcissists, there's a certain amount of control, and their agenda is the only thing that matters. They just want you to do what they want you to do. They just want you to play the role that they want you to play, which is also incredibly painful. And a lot of times, narcissists are very charming. So sometimes if you're a child of a narcissistic mother or father figure, your friends are like, what's your deal? Your mother's so cool. Your dad is so amazing. So there's a lot of times there's a charm that can come along with the more extroverted narcissist, because there's different types of narcissism, but I can't cover all of that in one video, so I'm not going to. But that also makes you feel alone, and can make you feel like you're losing it, because you're like, wait, am I the only person who sees this when everyone's like, your folks are so cool? And you're like, but are they? Because you don't live here, and really they're not so cool. Another telltale sign of having narcissistic parental influences is if they do not and did not have empathy. The capacity to have empathy for your experience. That is a telltale, one of the top signs of narcissism. And also, do they break your confidence, right? And use information that you might have given them? Do they throw it back in your face when you're vulnerable, or when they want to manipulate you around something? That is also extremely common with narcissistic parents. Also, unhealthy communication, like triangulation, where it's the parent figure pitting you against one of your siblings or two of your siblings. So you'll also notice in a family that had one or more narcissists in it who were in charge, I mean, either one, because usually you don't have two narcissistic parents. So whether it was a maternal figure or a paternal figure, there's all of this competition that they create between the kids, which is so painful. So not only do you get screwed out of having a healthy, loving, nurturing relationship with that adult in your life, it also makes your siblings sort of the enemy, because not everyone can be in the good graces at all times. So there's a lot that goes on in a family with a narcissist, where either you have sort of set roles where someone is the hero child and then someone else is the scapegoat. So everything that goes wrong is blamed on this one, like blatant favoritism. But it also can present as cycling through. So you might be in the good graces and then you could be in the doghouse. So it's almost like the hero child role can also cycle. So there's a lot of competition to stay in the good graces of the person who can really hurt you, especially when you're kids. Not just hurt you, but we are, talk about the ultimate captive audience. That's minor children, right? Because where are they going to go? What are you going to do, right? You're not like getting a room share on Craigslist, because that is not possible. And kids are very intuitive. If you're trapped in an unhealthy situation, intuitively we know what to do. We don't need someone to tell us how to avoid pain, because that is a natural human instinct. So we start to naturally just shove our own needs down, because if the way that we get love or acceptance is by prioritizing the need of the narcissist, then that's what we do, because no kid wants to put themselves in the line of fire. So that's also painful. Also, befriending your friends. What about having your parent befriend your friends? Anybody have that experience? not appropriate, unhealthy, but very common. It's almost like you can't even have your own friends because they want them too, right? Also, what about gaslighting to control you? Denying your reality. You may try to call them out. Gaslighting is, I think, we've talked quite a bit about this. It's a form of psychological abuse that is used as a way to basically deny your reality. Saying things didn't happen even though you know they did, or twisting the truth up to suit their narrative, whatever it may be. This also falls into the category of having a conversation, trying to share how you feel, or trying to make a request about something, and having your words being intentionally twisted up. Do you ever have the feeling when you talk to someone, I've had this experience with narcissists, that there is an intentional misconstruing of what I'm saying? There's an intentional misunderstanding where it's like, oh, so you're saying I'm an idiot, or you're saying you don't want to do this, and you're like, no, it's not what I said. But again, especially with a narcissistic parent, the playing field is so uneven that you're not most likely going to win. I mean, so much of the time you just get to a point where you're like, oh my God, it's not even worth it. But we're still want the approval and the love of our parents, because all children want that, no matter how damaged the parent is. As children, it's what we want. We're like ever hopeful that something's going to shift or something's going to change, and that they're going to approve of you or give you the love that you're seeking. But most of the time, if the person is really a narcissist, it doesn't happen, and not the way that you want. And how so many times you can get sucked back into the dynamic, even if you put distance as an adult, and then be very disappointed with how they eventually go back to their old ways, because it's just, for many of them, the way that they are wired. And another telltale sign is having a parent that is super thin-skinned, right? Can't handle the slightest bit of criticism, is constantly seeking, is there any criticism coming my way? And then they will retaliate if there is, which is really hard when you're a child, because this creates a hypervigilance around everything. You can't, how are you going to talk true if telling the truth is going to create pain in your life, get you rejected, screamed at, yelled at, hit, iced out for God knows how long? So I created a little downloadable guide for you, and I want you to really move into journaling about those questions. See what of those really hit home with you. Because as much as we feel like so much of the time, like I'm grown up, like I'm out of there, why do I need to go back in time? If we don't heal these wounds follow us into our adult relationships. So a lot of times we can have a lot of transference in our current relationships because someone is doing something that reminds us of the past, or we recreate the relationship with our narcissistic parental influencer in our romantic relationships, because somewhere down deep in the child's psyche, I say, this is my 2 cents on it. I don't know if it's factually true, but I feel like the kid in us wants a do-over, right? We want a better outcome. We want a chance for it to be good, that it's going to be different this time. And we start playing that out in our adult relationships. But here's the thing, with no intervention, it's unlikely that there's going to be a better outcome, right? We need new skills. We need new awareness. We need to understand ourselves. Why are we drawn to people who are very punitive or rejecting? Why are we drawn to people who are super self-absorbed, all about themselves? Many kids of narcissistic parents are codependent. It's just so, it's like the most natural fit, because a codependent is all about the other person and a narcissist is all about themselves. I did a video, an episode of the Terri Show on why narcissists and codependents can't break up, because it's like dysfunctional as hell, but it's kind of a perfect fit. And of course, until it's not. Okay, so what can you do? boundaries are one of the biggest things that you just have to get your boundary game on, even if that means stepping back. And in the book Boundary Boss, I have a whole chapter that I did on boundary destroyers, which are basically people with narcissistic personality disorder and some other cluster B personality disorders. But I give you different tactics, because really the regular rules don't apply to narcissists, but there are things that you can do to protect yourself, and it's so important. So if you don't have the book, if you want to read the book, go to boundarybossbook.com, because I think you will love it. You also have to learn to focus on yourself. Focus on what you want. When you're raised to focus on the wants, needs, desires of others, especially adults when you're a kid, it means that you just put your wants, needs, and desires like in a box somewhere and don't even look at them. So now it's time to start prioritizing yourself and your wants, your needs, your desires. And at first this might be awkward or scary, but trust me, this is a vital part of healing this experience of having a narcissistic parent, whichever one it was. And I think that you also have to really get knowledgeable. There's so much information out there. Of course, I provide a ton of information, but so do many other psychotherapists, clinicians, psychiatrists. And I mean, go to sources that are, reputable, of course. But it's your job. Become an expert. If you identify now from this, maybe this is opening your eyes, and you're like, okay, I am the child of a narcissist, then do your research. Get committed to becoming incredibly knowledgeable, because knowledge is power, and it possesses the power for you to take that pain and change it into your purpose, into changing the way that you're living your life. Happier, healthier, less chaos, less walking on eggshells. Like, you just don't need to walk around constricted like that. It is so bad for your health, and you don't deserve it. You already lived through it once. Let's heal it so you can move on and have more internal peace and harmony in your life. And the last thing I want to say about this is that you've got to honor your anger. As a child of a narcissist, you learn to disavow your anger, right? About the unfair treatment that you endured, because the narcissistic parent would never tolerate the show of anger towards them. They would crush it so fast. So we become naturally adaptive at stuffing that anger down. But here's the thing, that in childhood you had no choice but to ignore or disavow your anger, but you're grown up. And now you have a choice. You can honor your anger, and it is an essential part of healing, because that old anger drives the crap out of your decisions now. It is guiding the boat of your life, and you don't want it to. Right? That stuff is still in there. Just because we ignored it or we stuffed it down, it doesn't go away. So I want you to start processing that anger by writing about it, talking about it, get into therapy if you can, right? Start to release some of the charge of that old anger so that you can be fully present in your one-of-a-kind, amazing life. So I hope that this added value to your life. Know that you are not alone. I see you, right? I see you. I created this for you because I understand from being a therapist for 25 years how isolating, how painful, how hard to describe being the adult child of a narcissist is. And yet it is real, and there are steps that you can take. So please make sure that you download the guide. And I also want to clue you into the Mother Wound course. It's called Healing the Mother Wound, that I have created for you. So if the narcissistic parent in your life was the maternal impactor, and you're interested in having me walk you through this process of healing from this horrible wound, all you need to do is click the link. It's in all the information. It's in the show notes. You'll see it right here if you're watching this on YouTube. It is terricole.com/mother-wound-course. terricole.com /mother-wound-course. So I hope this added value to your life. Please let me know. Where are you? What do you think about this? Have you healed from a narcissistic parent? How did you do it? Are you on your journey? Did this help you? Is there someone that you could share this with in your life that might help them? Please do it, because the healthier we all are, the better our world will be. So thank you for spending time with me today. I super appreciate you. And as always, take care of you.